It wasn't until the final exam that we all started whispering. Did you hear? Simon finished everything in just 15 minutes. No one knew quite what to think. Simon was the quiet kid who sat at the back of the class, his face mostly hidden behind a curtain of dark hair, and only the teachers really knew how much he knew. He didn't brag, didn't talk about his grades, and didn't hang out much after school. But on exam days, his quietness felt louder than anything else. I remember when we first realized Simon was different. It wasn't anything he did to show off. In fact, if you asked him anything in class, he would just mumble or blush. But then there'd be moments. Like when we were doing a math test on fractions, and Simon solved the questions in half the time everyone else did. But he didn't just solve them, he had this way of explaining the answers, as if fractions were the most obvious thing in the world. When Mrs. Carter asked him how he knew all this, he just shrugged and said, "My mom taught me." Turns out, Simon's mom was his secret teacher. Every evening, after he finished school, they'd sit at their tiny kitchen table. She would go over his lessons with him, bringing in ideas that were far beyond what we were learning. Mrs. Carter said she was a self-taught genius herself, having learned things on her own that many people went to school for years to understand. And she had passed all of this on to Simon in the simplest, purest way possible. No textbooks or fancy explanations, just Simon and his mom talking about everything from history to chemistry, like it was their own secret world. One day, our science teacher, Mr. Bensley, asked if anyone knew how to balance chemical equations. Most of us just stared blankly, unsure of what he even meant. But Simon raised his hand and started explaining how atoms rearrange themselves, how they find ways to balance like little teams in a football match. Mr. Bensley was floored. "Where did you learn that?" he asked, probably thinking Simon had looked it up online or seen it on TV. "My mom," Simon said again, smiling shyly. Over time, Simon's smarts became something of a mystery and a marvel to us all. There were rumors, some said he was secretly a genius, others thought he might have a photographic memory. But the truth was, Simon had something a lot simpler but much rarer, his mom, who had taught him everything she knew with so much patience and love. The last time I saw Simon was after the exam. He was waiting outside for his mom, sitting quietly on the school steps. When she arrived, he handed her his paper with a big grin, and they walked home together, talking like they always did, about something only they could understand.